Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2024 ADEA CAAPID Virtual Fair. Thank you for joining us for this panel on reapplying to ADEA CAAPID. Today, I am joined by four panelists at four different schools across the United States, and I will be your moderator. My name is Emily Reinberger, and I work at the American Dental Education Association with ADEA CAAPID. I'd love for our panelists to introduce themselves. David, can we start with you?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is David Dams. I'm the Director of Admissions at the Kornberg School of Dentistry at Temple University. We're located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shirin Khoinejad. I'm the Director of Internationally Educated Dentist Program at Louisiana State University.
Hey friends, I'm Wendy Scripps. I'm the Director of Student Recruitment and Engagement with UAB School of Dentistry, and we are located in downtown Birmingham, Alabama.
Hey y'all, my name is Toby Kahn. I'm Assistant Director of Admissions at Boston University Henry M. Goldman School of Dental Medicine, located, not surprisingly, in Boston, Massachusetts. I manage the DMD Advanced Standing Program admissions.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining me today. We look forward to talking about reapplying to advanced standing programs through ADEA CAAPID. Today, our panelists are here to share information to support the applicants who may be applying for a second or a third time. So let's start. First question is, where should an reapplicant start when preparing for a second or a third application?
I'll take that, Emily. First of all, there are a lot of applicants to our advanced standing or international programs nationwide. So if you're thinking of reapplying, you are in good company. The number of applicants has grown a lot over the past few years. The good news is that so have the number of seats nationwide. In any case, over the past few years, as those applicants have grown, ADEA came up with an idea to help our reapplicants. It is a resource guide or a resource, which can be found on our website, on the ADEA website, sorry. And it is split into three main parts. Researching your application, researching schools. You can look at the program finder that ADEA posts. Taking control of your application, and then understanding the admissions process. So I will hand it over, and we will have a lovely chat.
That's a great resource. It is located on the ADEA CAAPID program finder for those who are interested in learning more about it. Are there other resources that you all can recommend for reapplicants starting to prepare for their second or third application?
I'll jump in there, Emily. Thanks. I would definitely recommend trying to reach out to current advanced standing students at any school that's out there. This can be done via social media, the schools themselves, recruitment events hosted by offices that we work in, be that admissions or student affairs. I find that a lot of students are very open to helping navigate that process because they understand how challenging it can be, especially for reapplicants. So take advantage of those resources. Not everyone's going to reply to you if you reach out to them on Insta or TikTok or whatever medium that you use, but those that will are going to help you. So I would definitely recommend trying to get that firsthand connection from someone who's navigated the path successfully already.
Those are great recommendations. How should an applicant reflect on their initial application as they prepare to reapply?
So I have some great suggestions for that. What we have found at UAB School of Dentistry, and I think it's probably the same at all dental schools, is that our successful applicants are really driven professionals. They're mature. They're looking to, self-evaluate their applications to determine maybe what some of their strengths and some of their weaknesses are that they can improve upon before they go to apply again. So I highly recommend always looking at the requirements for each school that you're interested in applying to. Read through their frequently asked questions. Oftentimes, that's a great place to find averages or, kind of see what does a competitive applicant look like. Also, think about what are you missing? What on your application are you missing? Are you meeting or better yet exceeding test scores or shadowing hours or employment hours or whatever the case may be? Determine where you are based on what the requirements are for each program. I also always encourage our students to gain as much U.S. dental experience as you can, because that's going to be really helpful as you're looking forward in reapplying to the program. Reading through dental journals, attending continuous education courses, those types of things are also going to be extremely beneficial. Being organized, detailed, thorough. I mean, go back and kind of look at what you listed on your application previously, and maybe how can you reword that and make that more clear and more thorough in the new application. Have a positive attitude, friends. I mean, focus on improving yourselves. There are hundreds of applicants for still relatively small class sizes. But when you look at, go through a self-evaluation, you're really able to see, what can I do better? Where can I improve at? How can I make myself the most competitive applicant for these programs?
Great advice.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Wendy touched on a lot of really, really good points. I would only add into that I'll reiterate some items first. So did you fulfill the requirements of the programs that you applied to? If you did not, then you shot yourself in the foot from the beginning, right? So you have to go back to the drawing board, and you also, as a reapplicant, need to reevaluate if the school has changed any of their requirements. So be sure to be up to date with what's going on at each and every school that you're considering. I would also reiterate, figure out what went right and what went wrong. Was it something in the application? Were you invited to interview? Were you invited to a bench test? Did you do the things that were asked of you, or what the expectations were from the school's perspective in those categories? It's just like anything else that you might not have been able to be successful with in the past. You have to find out what you did wrong and try and fix the issue. And I know that seems easy when we're talking about it, but it's something where that big self-reflection piece comes into it. Another thing that you may want to think about is when you applied. Did you apply early in the cycle? Did you apply later when a school's deadline was approaching? A lot of the schools have different deadlines, so that may mean that you'll apply to Boston before you apply to LSU. So all of these different things may come into play because you want to make sure that you're fulfilling all of those requirements, but also in a timely manner so that those schools and their admissions committees have enough time to review your file so that you can get the the opportunities based on the credentials that you bring to the application process.
Oh, sorry, Shireen.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
If I might just add something that you were talking about, David, which is basically because the different schools start at different times, the deadlines, as you were just saying, it can be hard to develop your application beyond what it was. But that is important when you are reflecting upon reapplying and the strengths and weaknesses of your application, because I think all admissions offices are going to want to see growth over time. If there was something that was particularly disadvantageous to your application.
I also want to add that we have a great section at ADEA. It's called Internationally Educated Oral Health Professionals, and everybody's are welcome to join and participate. And there are numerous resources. There are a lot of faculty members, students who also went through the same process. So it's a great resource that you can join and you can learn from other people, and also you can contribute.
Yeah, and if I can make one final comment there, at least on my end, and reiterate what Wendy said, stay positive. right? Our admissions committee loves reapplicants because it shows that you want it, right? If we got everything the first time that we had it, we'd all be millionaires and billionaires, right? So you have to keep grinding, keep trying, and showing that dedication, that perseverance, that desire is going to resonate well. Now, obviously, you need to fulfill all the requirements and fit the package that the schools are looking for, but don't think of being a reapplicant as a bad thing. It's just part of the process and your path to getting into a U.S. dental school.
There's a lot of really great advice here, and I feel like a lot of what you've said really plays into the next question. But I'm interested to know specifically, how can a reapplicant take control of their second application?
I would like to answer that question. I would say if an applicant did not get the position on the first round, I think they would self-reflect a little bit more and think about what kept them from that cycle. Is it the TOEFL score? Maybe you need a higher TOEFL score, so I would retake my TOEFL. Same thing with ADET. Or was I missing some US experience? That is also very important for a lot of programs. So if I don't have much of US experience, I would get more involved with the resources around, try to shadow, assist, and dental practice, or contact different dental schools if they allow common shadow, or maybe they didn't apply to the enough dental schools. So next round, I would definitely try to apply to different and more dental schools. Another thing is that each cycle, we compare the applicants to the same cycle pool. So if your application was not competitive on this year's cycle, maybe it is on the next year's cycle. So we definitely recommend reapplying to the same school or different schools on the next cycle to increase your chance.
Yeah, to that, I'd just like to add maybe a little moral support because, we know that reapplicants have their heart set, or all our applicants have their heart set maybe on one, two, or three schools for any number of reasons. Maybe their family, a family member went to that school. Maybe their families are from a particular region. That being said, we totally understand that, but you do need, as Shireen said, to look at a wide variety, a wide range of schools. Don't be tied just to one.
Yeah, and,
Oh,
and that's very, very good advice. And if you do get an opportunity multiple years where maybe last cycle you got to interview and or bench test somewhere, but this upcoming cycle you get that opportunity again, reflect on that experience that you had with the school the year before and what you might be able to do differently to stand out against the rest of the applicant pool. I think that's a big part of it. And the other thing that I'll say too, we see this a lot with applicants in general, but we want to make sure that all of you are practicing interviewing, right? There is a whole different game when it comes to interviewing for a job, which you've all done when it came to being associates or dentists yourselves, versus getting into a US dental program. Please practice interviewing. It shows, and it shows very, very quickly, whether in person or on Zoom. And I know that may be hard to say, but Temple does all of our interviews on Zoom, and we can tell within the first 3 or 4 minutes whether someone practiced interviewing or not. So practice makes perfect, just like every prep you've ever done. So let's make sure we treat this with the same respect.
reflecting back on the original question there, what can the applicant take control of? It sounds like a lot. There's some really great advice on how the applicants can really have an impact on this process. Well, let's move on to the next question. What should a reapplicant do right before submitting their ADEA CAAPID application?
I would say, oop,
Go ahead, Toby.
okay, sorry about that, David.
That's all right.
I would say to make sure that your application matches your profile. And what I mean by that is to make sure if the school, well, I think all schools require a CV. make sure that CV matches your application and the other way around. Don't let one document address only another. Match them up. That is really key. Because when we're looking at an application, we're looking at everything in that application. You don't want to leave anything out.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant point, Toby. Details matter, right? And one thing that I learned being a non-dentist working in this position and in this field is that dentistry is millimeters, and you should treat your application just as such, right? It's important to make sure that everything is aligned, everything is spelled correctly, it's grammatically correct, everything comes off as authentic. You have all the truthfulness that you need to express through all of that. I would have said the exact same thing. Make sure your CV matches the experiences that you highlight in the application. And you just want to make sure that you're demonstrating your entire desire to learn about practicing in the US. One thing that I learned when I was in school, when you're kind of waiting to submit something or put your final touches on a big document like an application, is step away from it for a half an hour or a day and go back to it and re-review, because once you get lost in the words, you're going to oversee some of the potential mistakes that you put in there. So take your time, take a deep breath, and then submit when you're ready.
I think all of those suggestions are awesome. And I wanted to add that, right when you're getting ready to reapply, look back at the old application. You still have your materials, you know what all went in there, and make sure you add everything else you've been doing since then. Because that's something that a lot of students will forget to do, is go in and update all of their experiences. We don't want you taking away anything. We want you to add to. So make sure that you're doing that. Again, the attention to detail just cannot be overstated. It's extremely important. And make sure you're describing your experiences. Very simple example, if you're describing a shadowing experience that you had, be detailed. What did you see? What kind of opportunities did you get to participate in? If you are describing, a procedure that you got to assist with, give us some specific details, things that were going on around you, not just that you assisted with this specific procedure, but give us some details, something that really helps us see what it was that you were learning and observing in that environment.
Well, I hope people are taking notes because there's a lot of really great information in here. Appreciate all of this. There's been a lot of great advice, a lot of suggestions, but just to kind of capitalize on what a lot of you have already said, my last question here is, if an applicant didn't get in last year, should they reapply?
Definitely.
Definitely. As Dr. Coy mentioned, each year we look at the applicant pool as a whole from that year. So even if let's say you had an interview, and a school really liked you, but maybe the seats were taken, maybe you applied late, for instance, or maybe, you weren't interviewed, but you turned out to be a really competitive applicant. That's great. I think one of the myths out there is that, in fact, schools consider reapplicants less than new applicants, which is absolutely not the case. And I just want to bring up one thing about, what people say out there in social media land. I realize I might be a little old, but there's a lot of support in, whatever it is, WhatsApp or Insta or TikTok, although I'm not sure how much in TikTok, but or in Reddit. These are great areas of support, but they can also be areas where there's not misinformation, but people are talking from their very own experiences, which may not be the experience or the whole that a school sees. So it can be heartening and it can also be disheartening to hear certain things. So if you have questions, ask them of admissions offices or go to their websites. Those are the areas that are going to give you the most accurate information.
Toby, I can't help but jump in here, and I tell students a lot that I spend a good bit of time myth busting because maybe 10 years ago that was a requirement of the program, but it isn't any longer. And that's where we have had some confusion, particularly with our international program, is that students will, listen to what someone said from a long time ago, and maybe it's changed, maybe the processes have changed. Maybe we have more seats than we used to. I mean, there's a large number of things that can go along with that. So make sure that you are looking at the websites and that you are getting the most up-to-date information. I encourage everyone, reapply. Oftentimes, it literally comes down to numbers. We have a select number of seats per program, and we get hundreds of applicants. And so we want to pick the best class each time. And so if you don't make it this cycle, reapply next cycle. That could be your cycle, or even a third cycle. Just don't give up. Like, stay focused on what your end goal is, and you'll be successful.
Yeah, I think that's great. The only thing I'll add on to that is to a comment that Toby made, is this is your path to dental school, right? And everybody's path is different. It's great to get advice from others who, and I even said this before, so I'm almost contradicting myself, but getting advice from other students who have navigated the path is helpful. But you should get that advice from as many different people as possible to mold it to your experience and your path to dental school, because it is going to be different for everyone. It's great to get advice. It's great to know what's going on. I think Toby hit the nail on the head that it's not necessarily misinformation. It just might not be the most accurate information. So going to those sources like Wendy and Dr. Coy and Toby and the other admissions teams for the schools out there, they're going to be able to help guide you on what they're looking for and what other schools are looking for. I can't speak specifically to any program out there outside of Temple's, but there's a good general consensus of what a lot of the schools are looking for. And that's why we encourage you to apply to a lot of schools, because there are a lot of similarities. So you want to make sure that doing that homework and making sure you design your own path to dental school is important.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. So for those watching, there are a lot of resources out there. If you're looking for the websites for any of the advanced standing programs that participate in ADEA CAAPID, please look up the ADEA CAAPID Program Finder. There is eligibility and requirement information, as well as links to everybody's websites, and it's a great place to start. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in the program and ADEA CAAPID booth at the remainder of the fair. Have a great day.
Good luck.